Finally, what we all have been waiting for and calling for and questioning why it wasn't happening. Stephanie White has stepped up to the plate in defense of Caitlin Clark. I could not believe my ears, guys. I could not believe my ears when I heard this. Stephanie White actually being bold enough to stand on business and protect Caitlin Clark.
Stephanie White recently made public what almost every other WNBA player is too afraid to even mutter aloud. White went into great detail about how Caitlin Clark's name is consistently brought up in CBA debates, despite the fact that she hasn't spoken at all. And what do you know? Stephanie White didn't mince words. We must thoroughly analyze her remarks to determine why they have everyone on edge. Do you believe that the WNBA and its players are currently abusing Caitlin Clark?
It is Stephanie White talking about Caitlin Clark being brought up in a lot of these conversations in CBA by other people and not her speaking herself. And I think this is a really interesting one. And it's clear from this answer, I've already listened to this, it's very clear from this answer that Stephanie White clearly and Caitlin Clark, there's clearly a level of person, like they clearly really like each other as people.
Okay, so let's get started. The Indiana Fever's head coach, Stephanie White, recently participated in an interview, and I must say that this type of interview is now causing quite a stir in the WNBA. People are discussing it from all throughout the league.
Saying what it is, these people are using Caitlin Clark, they're disrespecting.
The problem is that we just cannot let this continue. And pay attention, Stephanie White didn't lose her temper or go on a tirade. In actuality, she did the league even worse. She spoke with such composure and just stated the facts. She said, in precise terms, "I hate it all for Caitlin. This 23-year-old girl enjoys playing this game and is a pawn in many other people's games." That particular line really established the tone because, to be honest, she is completely correct. Almost every dispute that takes place in the WNBA now revolves on Caitlin Clark. Her name somehow always finds itself in the center of the conversation, whether it is about player salaries, those soaring TV numbers, media favoritism, or even just the refereeing.
Getting brought into that, Caitlin Clark responding to it. What has been your overall assessment of that dialogue and as it relates to your star player?
Yeah, I mean, I hate it all for Caitlin. I feel like, she's a 23-year-old kid who loves to play this game, who is a pawn in a lot of other people's games and a lot of other people's narratives, and I hate that for her. We're coming into a time in the WNBA where we're kind of part of the growing pains of becoming quote unquote mainstream professional sport is some of this.
Furthermore, throughout the entire season, Caitlin has hardly made any provocative remarks. She has, however, been drawn into each and every dispute. She seems to be the embodiment of every issue facing the league. Stephanie White has officially reached her breaking point. She is calling out everyone when she claims that Caitlin is being exploited as a pawn. And by everyone, I mean the players, the commissioner, and even the media are included in this. Caitlin is essentially being used by each side to advance their own narrative. Here, let's be honest. The most well-known figure in women's basketball history is Caitlin Clark. Without a doubt. She's boosting the ratings. She is the person who sells tickets. The headline magnet is her. Therefore, when someone attracts that much attention, it's quite simple for everyone else to pick it up. However, it has gone too far. Caitlin's name is mentioned whenever a player expresses disapproval of the league. Every time a new WNBA rule is announced, Caitlin's experience is compared to it. She seems to have lost her humanity. Stephanie White is so sick of seeing her since she is really a marketing ploy.
You think that we are at a pivotal moment in terms of the league's history. And look, I was a part of the very first collective bargaining agreement of the WNBA where we wanted insurance all year long, to now where it is growing and players do deserve more. And leadership needs to reflect where we are as a league and also understand where we are as a league and where players' perspectives are coming from and We have coaches on the sidelines, and Becky Hammond and myself, and of course Noah Quinn, who was in Seattle, who played in.
Listen, she has witnessed Caitlyn endure verbal abuse off the court and frequent physical assaults on the court during the season. Caitlyn has managed it all without ever losing her cool. In all honesty, though, no one should be forced to shoulder the whole burden of a league's politics at the age of 23. White uses the word pawn literally. Caitlyn is used by the WNBA to promote tickets. She is used by the athletes to demand better contracts. She is used by the media to get clicks. Fans are left to watch a league that seems to be more concerned with drama than with the real game. This is when things become really fascinating. White isn't merely standing up for her top player as a coach. She is speaking from experience, having been in the league since its inception. She was present when the WNBA had to defend fundamental rights like year-round compensation and health insurance. She is speaking from personal experience when she refers to these as growing pains. To be honest, players were ecstatic to have a league at all back then. They desire what they have earned today. More respect, more money, and more authority. However, the league's top brass is still lagging behind. White made it very apparent. The league's current state must be reflected in the leadership. Translation: the leaders are completely mired in the past. Although she wasn't required to, she chose not to identify Kathy Angelbert. Everyone was aware of who she was referring to. Every single dispute now comes full circle back to the commissioner. Angelbert has been under fire for months, let's face it. She has offended both players and spectators with her tone-deaf remarks regarding Caitlyn's off-court money and her dismissal of player concerns. Therefore, White's statement that we need better leadership is actually the most polite approach to tell someone to get your act together. To be honest, she is correct. How many times have we witnessed the league handle something straightforward entirely incorrectly? We're talking about erratic refereeing, awful communication failures, and completely nonsensical fines. It seems as though those in charge don't know how to deal with success. Indeed, the WNBA is expanding, but it is due to the players rather than the front desk staff. The statement, "Your employees are your number one asset," was even made by Stephanie White, and she's entirely right. The league is made up of the players. However, they're the ones who feel insulted all the time. Nafisa Collier attacked Kathy Engelberg a few weeks ago, accusing her of poor leadership and even saying that Kathy had told Caitlyn Clark to be thankful for the WNBA platform. That was a huge tale. And rather than confronting it head-on, Kathy made the most cliched, dejected comment ever. Afterward, Sophie Cunningham blatantly referred to Kathy as the most naive leader our league has ever encountered. Collier had the support of Lexi Hall. When it came to officiating, Becky Hammond made some really harsh remarks. Now, even the always composed and collected Stephanie White is speaking up. Nothing will reveal the depth of the frustration if that doesn't. Back to Caitlyn, though. She has seldom mentioned any of this. Her only response to reporters' questions over Kier's remarks was, "I have great respect for fate." She had several good points. That's all. She was impartial. Nothing was escalated by her. However, because people couldn't stop linking her to every problem, her name continued to appear in headlines for weeks. White detests that. Her tone makes that very clear. She feels quite protective of Caitlyn as a person and as her player. She is aware of the pressure that comes with serving as the league spokesperson. Because this is the reality. That title wasn't requested by Caitlyn. She received it from the league. Yep, she's our golden ticket, they commented after noticing the spike in ratings. Additionally, she is now used as a scapegoat if something goes wrong. That's where things went wrong. Stop using Caitlyn Clark as your shield, is essentially what Stephanie White is advising everyone. Address any issues you may have with the CBA. Say it out loud if you're upset about leadership. However, cease transforming every discussion into the Caitlyn Clark debate. The unfortunate thing is that since Caitlyn is associated with money and money talks, it's unlikely to cease very soon. Here's the strange twist, though. Fans are beginning to turn against the league in greater numbers the more they utilize her name. Nowadays, people can see straight through it. They are able to spot instances in which the league is merely utilizing her reputation to hide its own shortcomings. Do you recall how the league did nothing when the officials allowed her to be tossed around on the court earlier this season? They abruptly began making players' safety declarations when the outcry became quite loud. Yes, White is referring to just that. They don't react when it's the correct thing to do. They only do so when it appears terrible in public. And officiating isn't the only thing involved. Respect is at issue. It all comes down to communicating clearly. The key is to truly pay attention to those that enable the league. White has enough WNBA experience to understand the distinction between genuine leadership and empty rhetoric, as well as Kathy Angel. She only talks about PR. Because they have already seen this film, players like Collier and coaches like White are pushing back. And it doesn't end well, I assure you. The WNBA is at a turning point. Stephanie White just made it public that they are running out of patience despite having amazing momentum, a lot of attention, and stars who can truly make a difference. Now, this is something that may be missed. Additionally, White quietly defended the league. She stated, "All this chaos is part of growing pains." And she's entirely correct. Without some internal chaos, no league can grow to greatness. It was experienced by the NBA. The NFL experienced it. The main distinction is that the leadership of those leagues genuinely took note of it. Specifically, will the WNBA? Because these fissures will become full-on fractures if they don't. The kicker is this. The fans are becoming disinterested while everyone is fighting. What takes place on the court is totally overshadowed by all of this backstage intrigue. The actual basketball is simply forgotten. Stephanie White understands that completely. Her message is so well balanced because of this. She's not merely making fun of people. She is reminding everybody of the real stakes. How the WNBA treats its biggest stars determines how credible the league is. And it's performing horribly at the moment. Let's face it, if you've made it this far and are enjoying the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications.